You are listening to True 10 Crimecast, the only independent true crime podcast in the 210 area. Listen, share, and spread the word because when the true crime community comes together, cases get solved. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Spotify. Listener discretion is advised. This episode, we will take a deep dive into fentanyl and other drug-related information that affects our families, communities, and loved ones directly here in the 210. We will get to hear from Ginger Treanor, creator and life advocate for One Pill Kills campaign here in San Antonio, throughout Texas, and the USA. Ginger will share her personal touch of losing her own daughter, Brooke, from an overdose and her impact and change for the future of drug prevention and education. One of those illicit drugs was fentanyl, a little pill with big consequences. So what is fentanyl? I know we hear it quite a lot in the news, online, but unless you have been in the hospital and required a heavy dose of pain meds or personally been affected, you may not know of the real fact. Fentanyl is a class of drugs called opioids. Opioids are used to treat severe pain. Unlike most opioids made from the opium poppy plant, fentanyl is a synthetic human-made opioid created in a lab by scientists in the 1960s using the same chemical structure as the opium plant. Fentanyl is classified as a Schedule II narcotic, meaning that it has the highest potential for consumer misuse. It was first introduced in the U.S. around the 1970s. And the use of fentanyl was very restricted as the FDA already was concerned for its habit-forming nature. Fentanyl comes in many forms, from pills to patches, lozenges, IV sprays via mouth or nasal, and it is 100 times more potent than morphine. The 1980s and the 1990s was the big turn for pharmaceutical development in the U.S. Unfortunately, not all new developments were for the best, including the use of morphine, oxycodone, and dilutes. So all of these drugs have reputations for being dangerous, having high levels of abuse. Fast forward to the early 2000s. This is when American officials started to realize the significance of overdoses and its impacts it was having in our communities. Police having to fight illegal drugs on the streets is one thing, but the abuse of prescription drugs is a whole nother level. This was abused by pharmaceutical companies, physicians getting paid through sales, and then the ease of it all when there was little regulation on some of these prescriptions. The abuse grew, and so did the impact it was having. Fentanyl is a cheap drug, so those that are making illegal fentanyl often do this because it is a less expensive drug to use. It is also the idea that making cheaper pills stronger will increase sales, but unbeknownst to the purchaser, they are taking fentanyl. You may buy an oxy pill and think you are good because you can handle oxycodone, but in reality, you could be taking fentanyl, and as little as 2 milligrams may be lethal. By the early 2010s, the U.S. government increased monitoring and regulation of how opioids are prescribed and used. In 2013, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declared an opioid epidemic. And 2017 was the first year where the opioid crisis was officially declared a national public health emergency. It has been redeclared as such every year since. It was around this time that Ginger Treanor started getting involved in local outreach programs with SAPD and learning the real cost of drugs in our city.
Outline this about homeless. That's where I started 2018 before Brooke died. Volunteering for the SAPD Hope Team, walking alongside homeless, and the officers decided, McManus sent them on the streets, that what they needed most was their IDs. to get them off the street. I was able to listen to their stories 2 days a week at police headquarters, and then I brought in the Hope team, the Catholic Charities to do. I just did bus passes and everything that the homeless needed for almost 2 years till 2020. Before that, I was on the grand jury where I learned about all the drugs. I was just very naive to the crimes of the city and drugs, and they laid them out on the table and showed us what they look like and the crimes that go along with them. My training came after the Hope team. I became a chaplain. My passion for fentanyl support came after I went to a DEA conference, and the DEA was the first speaker of the day. And this is where One Pill Kill started. I listened to him talk about fentanyl, and so many people didn't know about it back then. And I asked him the question. I said, is there a chance that Brooke just didn't know the drug that she was getting that day, that it overdosed and killed her? And he said, most likely not, because it's a white powder and you can't tell what's in it. I could tell you about finding her in her apartment. It was 2 days after she got out of rehab. That's where she spent the last 30 days of her life and wrote the scroll, as I call it, things that she wanted to say. So I have her scroll with me and her handwritten obituary. I posted a copy of that obituary on the website. So I listened to the DEA conference. I heard DEA slogan, one pill can kill. And I went back and started creating these signs, one pill kills, because I had forgotten their slogan and I made up my own. And then I started sending these signs to Governor Abbott, going to Austin, joining the Angel Moms, working on House bills to get passed. And finally in September 22 or 23, Abbott launched his drug campaign awareness against fentanyl. It was after the Kyle, Texas students. There were 5 of them that died from fentanyl poisoning that August. And then it was September that he finally woke up and realized he needed to do something. So he launched his campaign using my one pill kills as his slogan.
Finally, in March 2023, the FDA approved Narcan for over-the-counter use. Naloxone is an emergency treatment that reverses the effects of opioids, such as overdosing. It comes in a nasal spray or liquid that is injected and works by blocking opioid receptors in the body, which allows it to stop opioids from working and temporarily reverse their side effects. This is especially beneficial for those that are accidentally introduced to fentanyl or if too much is taken.
Well, the Narcan aspect of it didn't help Brooke because it was in her apartment. And if you don't have somebody with you to give you the Narcan, it does you no good. I pass it out because every home needs it. And when parents would tell me my child doesn't do drugs, I don't need Narcan. And I'll tell them, what about their friends' friends who stay overnight at your house? Don't you want to help them? Or cousins or nieces or relatives, that you come in contact with. Everybody should have Narcan. The reason they need the Narcan is people who don't even do drugs, college students, businessmen have taken Xanax, Percocet, whatever, to calm their nerves. On the street, they're getting a pill that looks just like what they get from the pharmacy, and they don't know that it's not real. Narcan is great. I was there when they released them onto the officers' vehicles, sheriff's department. That was about 3 years ago. And then I've been asking VIA to put it on the buses. The buses are the first people that see people overdose. The homeless, for instance, students, young people, they all ride the buses. So the first defense would be the bus driver being able to give someone Narcan. Most of these people who take fentanyl and don't know it.
As Ginger has stated, local governments, including Texas governor and local San Antonio officials, have jumped on the high needs of education and prevention for the fentanyl crisis. It is reported that in Texas from 2020 to 2023, there was a 158% increase of fentanyl-related deaths. And to combat those crises, Governor Greg Abbott had worked with the Texas Department of Public Safety to stop illegal smuggling of drugs in the state. In 2021 alone, Texas law enforcement seized more than 793 million lethal doses of fentanyl. Everything about it is a win-win for the dealers. And people are deceived in thinking, like my daughter, like, well, why would they get rid of me? I'm their best client. Why would they want to kill me? I give them money and they can keep me going with my drug. And they don't care. They have many more clients. It's not like you have to keep
It's not like any other business. It's like the people needing drugs keep coming. And they're in the schools. They're infiltrating themselves in the schools using students to distribute their drugs. In Mexico, they're hiring students that are working in labs to actually be hired upon exiting their training by the cartels to create fentanyl for them because they can make more money at it. So they know how to think outside the box. And we've got to get better at it. We're like blindsided. We're so behind the eight ball in all of this.
The resources, I don't know if it's because we need more halfway houses or we need more drug treatment facilities. Where do you think the breakdown is?
The breakdown is with the rehabs. To start with, in Brooke's case, they were only 30 days at a time. Parents go in because they're desperate to help their child. They don't know what else to do. Put them in the rehab, hope it saves their lives. I'll tell you, the last rehab Brooke was at Origins, she went to the gate. She was highly addicted, more addicted than she thought. She goes to the gate as I'm leaving, and she just asked me the question, Mom, just tell me why I'm here. Because she was a self-admit. I paid for her to get there, but she could have checked herself out. She stuck it out the whole 30 days, even though she was the worst detox. They had to take her to the hospital. But what happens is that rehab let her down. But rehabs will take in all your money, and then they don't have the aftercare.
It is also pushing for the education and the slogan from Ginger Treanor of the One Pill Kills tagline. And just in 2023, State Bill of Texas 629 now requires all public school districts to provide opioid overdose reversal drugs like Narcan and to have a policy of training and implementation at all middle and high schools, while it is only recommended at elementary levels. Many local departments like Bexar County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Javier Salazar, have presented and shared education resources with residents, parents, schools, and professionals.
And it was about 2.5 years ago that I got placards on the buses for One Pill Kills that goes to Governor Abbott's office with the facts on fentanyl. It's on a QR code. And Sacred is on there too, because I work with Glen Muse a lot for the resources for the city. But it's not the facts that are going to resonate with people, it's the real life stories. They can see their friends die like Brooke did. She had so many friends that died from fentanyl poisoning and overdoses through the years, and that does not penetrate hard enough with the user. It's that real life story, like that person looks like my brother, sister, cousin. Could that be my mom? If I die, if I keep doing this and I die, is my mom going to tell my story? Is this how she's going to be hurt by my death? I mean, it gets into thinking. People have turned their lives around by listening to these stories, and those are told by Texas Pictures.
This is where we were first introduced to Texas Pictures documentaries. Texas Pictures is an independent film and video company boasting to be storytellers with message-oriented services. Texas Pictures have done many collections on sharing stories of families that have been impacted by crime-related issues such as domestic violence and drug-related offenses. They have created a whole series on fentanyl awareness. This has allowed families and loved ones to share stories of their own personal impact fentanyl has had. Here's an excerpt from director Glen Muse sharing what we are missing and why education is so important.
Illicit fentanyl emerged as a major public health crisis in the United States around 2013, over 12 years ago. The problem now is it's no longer just fentanyl. It's an unstable, ever-changing, polysubstance poison supply. And our systems are still treating it like a single drug crisis. Here's why that matters. First, fentanyl is now mixed with other drugs that Narcan, naloxone, doesn't fix. Illicit fentanyl is increasingly combined with substances like xylazine, which is a veterinary sedative. The U.S. is fighting yesterday's opioid crisis with yesterday's tools, while today's illicit fentanyl crisis is fundamentally different. Until policy, data collection, emergency response, and public education fully account for polysubstance contamination, non-fatal overdose harm, Narcan-resistant overdoses, and supply instability, we will keep underestimating the true scope of the damage.
Although this may be a tough subject and much work is still needed, True 10 Crimecast believes education is the best prevention. The more we educate and share, the further we take our communities, families, and loved ones. We encourage all of our listeners, regardless of your location in the world, to check out our listed resources, including local and beyond. A special thank you to Ginger Treanor, who has created such an amazing organization with One Pill Kills SA, who strives to spread awareness in our communities as she continues to share her daughter Brooke's legacy. You can visit onepillkillssa.org for more information. Thank you to Glen Muse for your continued outreach of sharing so many impactful stories of fentanyl, but other life-altering stories, including his new series on missing individuals in San Antonio. You can check out his YouTube page at Texas Pictures. Thank you to our True 10 Crimecast listeners, followers, subscribers, and supporters. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. And as always, stay safe, San Antonio.